Well, welcome to the show today. It's a beautiful rainy day here in Melbourne. It's a Wednesday, and I'm very grateful to have John here. And I will give you a well-deserved intro there, my friend.
Thanks, Peps.
But before we get started, I always like to acknowledge those who provided these opportunities. So our people here in Australia, but also, no, I should actually say that again, our Indigenous brothers and sisters that have given us the platform to be here, and I get the opportunity to represent them. So represent to all our brothers and sisters out there. And a special shout out to Sam and Andrew Padula for putting this on for us and having us the opportunity to voice, but also bring to light people like my guest that I have here today. So, John, welcome to the show. And for those that are listening, John is a Melbourne-based physiotherapist. You know, we have the opportunity to work together at Kinematics. He blending science, movement, and real movement connection. Generally one of the most nicest humans I get to work with, kind, grounded, passionate, with a quiet aura about him. You know, after a decade of working interstate, he's back home, drawn to a team that lives and breathes culture, collaboration, and high standards. At his core, John is curious about the body, but more importantly, about people. He looks beyond pain, focusing on how we move, how we think, and how we show up every day. His approach is simple. Don't just get people out of pain, build them to be better because it's inspired by anti-fragility. He helps people become stronger through stress or managing stress and how to survive it. Outside the clinic, you'll find him training, creating music, reading, spending time with his beautiful rescue cat, Anya. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And then at the same time, making perfume and cologne. Gosh, what a guy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Peps. Thank you.
What an intro.
You must have got that from my CV. That was great.
You know, I said to Rach, hey, Rach, any information there for me?
Is there anything he doesn't do?
No, but honestly, in real words, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity, John. It's I've always been inspired by you since we first connected, and you know, I remember I was part of your job interview, and I was inspired by your aura in terms of people, and I'm always about people first before the skill. And that's obviously what today's about, because you have such a unique to physiotherapy, and with the way the industry is going, you know, people are drawn to more people like yourself, and obviously you've now got to work together. You've seen that we put a lot of work in detail around culture, community, and, you know, it really starts with yourself. So, you know, give us a bit of insight about you, my man.
Yeah, thanks, Peps. Appreciate the intro. And so in terms of like joining your team and
Our team,
Kinematics, it's been about 3 years now, and it's been an honor to be able to work with a multi-passionate team, a high-achieving team as well. I think we all bring like another caliber to healthcare, and you know, I'm just honored to be able to be part of that with, you know, other like-minded people, and I think that's where you can create the most changes, when you can do it with others, and not just try and do it yourself. So. Yeah. But yeah, as far as like outside of physio, I'm a pretty multi-passionate person. I've got a lot of interests. I'm a bit of an optimizer at heart, but I have a lot of interest in like self-development, health, wellness, and community culture. And, you know, it's I think Kinematics is a really amazing place where you can bring all those things together and really show people what healthcare is all about.
Amazing. Well, I mean, like, just from your intro, like that already, you know, it's already kind of G'd me up for today. You know, you obviously offer so much, but, you know, behind every story, there's obviously a beginning. And to be a physio, you know, you've obviously mastered the art of obviously movement. You've got quite a lot of passion and interest in terms of like the mental skills and behaviors of our rehab. Like, how did this all come about? Like, where did this start before being the physio?
Yeah, there wasn't like a big sort of moment that sort of came up for me. It was more over the years, just some of the things that I was drawn towards, some of my like inclinations, that the things that I sort of connected with or resonated with over the years. But a lot of it sort of started in my early development, sort of with self-development. So probably when I was about 13, so early adolescence, you know, I thought getting popular with the ladies was the high ticket sort of item to go after, and I quickly learned that wasn't the most important thing. It was more about being a good person, really developing yourself, and, you know, just being a good human to other people. And so that's sort of when I started my personal development journey, and, you know, read a lot of books and really just tried to consume a lot of information that I could sort of master myself. And I sort of embraced this idea of mastering yourself to master others. And so that sort of started that whole journey for me. And then throughout my education and schooling, I really had a lot of interest in science and physiology and learning about the human body. I noticed I was quite intuitive when it came to the human body, and so I just started leaning into those interests a little bit more. I was also really drawn to numbers and accounting and commerce and business and systems-based thinking, which I started to integrate into my self-development as well, and just starting at looking at ways that I could bring a more systems-based approach into how I think about health. So yeah, that's sort of where the journey all started and came together.
I can definitely highlight having the opportunity to work with you, having the opportunity to work with quite a few patients together. And, I thought I was a really nice guy, and it's amazing.
You are, Peps.
And then I get feedback from patients that, wow, John is like on another level nice guy. So, I have full kudos to you, for the work that you've done to be where you are, because it takes a lot of courage. And the fact is that you've had this art of curiosity since a young age. You can definitely see it in your skills and your repertoire. I've had the privilege of working with, professional athletes, teams from all over. And you don't really see that. So, when I see someone with a gift, I definitely magnify and really hold close into my circle. So you've definitely been a big asset in our team in terms of providing that aura. And I know there's a lot of patients that we share that really appreciate the work that you do. But you could definitely, from your story that you just shared, you can see that in what you do and the passion that you put behind it, because it definitely creates community. And that's something that we're obviously trying to build, and you definitely play a big part in that.
Thanks,
but I guess what we want to know is, what led you to physio? So you obviously did a lot of self-discovery. You could have gone to medicine. You could have done psych. I feel like you should have done psychology sometimes. Like, why physio?
So, I mean, actually, I did intend to sort of do something maybe sports medicine related. Physio was, I think, I was weighing up the options at the time before I pursued my undergraduate study, but I think physio was a bit more of what I needed and more specific to my needs. Medicine was going to be a whole journey. You have to go through general medicine training as well, and there was no guarantee you'd actually get into any sort of sports type role. But I think every physio wants to start working in sports, and then you sort of find your way along that path. But in terms of physio, I think it's sort of more the physical connection with the body. I'm someone that resonates a lot with physical touch. That's one of my love languages, and it's something that I'm very intuitive with my hands. Like, I enjoy doing creative things. You probably know this, but outside I enjoy making pizza and being hands-on with some of my hobbies, creating things. And so for me, the physical side and the being able to use my hands and use that in a healing way, I think that's something that was really important to me. And so I tried to lean into that as much as I could. But the psychology aspect is interesting because, yes, I do have a lot of interest in human behaviour and human psychology. And I tried my sort of unique perspective when it comes to rehab is I try and seamlessly sort of pull that into the whole rehab process, because a lot of people, when they're injured, they're coming to you in their most vulnerable state, so physically and mentally and emotionally. So it's often the time where you can create the most change. And I think having that knowledge of psychology and how people are sort of at their deepest core, you can use that knowledge to create, or it essentially is a catalyst for change for people who are involved in the health process.
So I've got a question for you in terms of relating to that. So say someone's injured, and I've obviously got to see it, but it would be cool to for the millions of viewers out there.
Millions.
100%. Do you have like a framework in your head? Someone's injured. Yes, we're going to address the pain. But do you automatically go into, cool, these are things that we need to kind of address? Obviously, from yellow flags, meaning from a stress, they're worried about ABC. Is it a financial risk barrier? Is it supportive barrier? Like, Where do you kind of draw the line in terms of what you can do versus bringing in a psych that needs to be involved in that treatment plan? How do you go about nurturing your patients? Because I know that you put a lot of emphasis around making sure they're really supportive, they're heard. How do you bring in those mental skills that you've kind of acquired over those years?
Yeah, well, the first step is just when I first meet someone is just listen to them, and just have not try and sort of jump in too early. Just probably like first minute or two, just let them speak, and just I usually start with like, tell me your story and tell me why you're here. How can I help? And so that's that whole sort of start is just receiving their story. And so in order to receive someone's story, you need to just be open ears and hear where they're coming from. As I say, no one's so naive that you can't learn from them. So I'm just there sort of listening, just hearing what's been said, hearing what's not been said. And then once they've sort of told their story, then usually the follow-up questions I'm usually hearing for what hasn't been said, or I'm trying to identify patterns in what they're saying. And so for me, pattern recognition is one of those high priority things, because over the years, as I've become more experienced in my field, I've started to look for patterns, not just physical patterns, but mental patterns as well, behavioral patterns, and things like that. And those kind of help me ask the right questions and help me find sort of what that person needs, whether that's physically, from a support perspective. Do I need to refer them on to this person? What kind of support can I give them, for them coming to see me today, that sort of thing. And so it all starts from like just receiving their story and really listening with an open heart, and then really showing that you care. As I say, no one cares how much you know unless they know how much you care. So if you show that right up front.
Relax on those quotes.
Yeah, I got so many of them. We haven't even gotten started.
The rise inside.
There's this quote that that Pep has borrowed off me, and just loves it.
Where you go.
Yeah. Was the rising tides lifts all the boats.
Amen.
So
amen. That's a special one.
It is important, because I think a lot of people throw around this sort of saying of like, oh, it's lonely at the top, like in terms of success. But actually, I think the opposite is true. It's like if you're successful, you actually brought people along with you, and so that's where that whole idea comes from.
I feel like for you, like I definitely see that massively with the patients that you do. You definitely go out of your way to ensure they have a plan. We call it a prognosis, making sure that patients have a distinct plan over the weeks, over the months, or what does it look like depending on what they present with. I definitely see you kind of mobilize, having masseuses, part of the plan, S&C, either if I need to be involved, like from what I've seen and relating to you, the patients feel heard, and it's almost like I don't need to do too much, because you've already set the tone of this is what it looks like. These are the expectations. So I definitely give massive credit to how you go about your craft.
Thanks, Peps. And I think people appreciate clarity. Like, we live in an information overload age, and so there's so much information out there, and I think what we can do best for people is just simplify things and just simplify it to first principles. If you can explain things to people in a way that makes sense on their level, people really care or appreciate when you do that. And so it's just peace of mind for them. They feel heard, understood. They feel like you're on their level. You're not speaking at them or down to them. And I think that creates this collaborative environment where practitioner and patient can work together, rather than me telling you what to do or being sort of above you. So it's more of establishing that collaborative relationship and establishing trust with people. And trust is the one thing that's super important when it comes to healthcare.
Based on what you're talking about, we're going to go into anti-fragile humans. Now, this is something you talk about often. Could you kind of tell us about, is this kind of ties into that? Yeah,
so anti-fragility it's this, I actually read this book by Nicholas Taleb. So he talks about this idea of anti-fragility, which is more about going a step beyond resilience. So you've got resilience, which is, being able to handle or bounce back from stress or absorb stress in a way where it doesn't sort of affect you too much. And then you've got the opposite of that, which is fragility, which is, being more fragile and breaking down in the face of stress. So anti-fragility is all about going a step beyond resilience, where you actually, stress makes you stronger. So you almost absorb stress, and it actually makes you stronger, which is, to get to that point, it requires adaptability. It requires, repeated exposure to stressful environments, stressful stimuli. And in a lot of our age today, people actively avoid those things. People actively avoid failing. And so it does create more of a fragile mindset. And so when people face an injury or pain and they're not used to that, their mindset often dictates a lot of their outcomes. And so for me, the highest priority is getting that person's mindset ready first before any type of rehabilitation plan. Yeah. And different people have gone through different experiences in their life. So I have to gauge how mentally resilient are they coming into their injury, and sort of where are they at, so I can best prepare them for what they need to be able to do.
That's a great response there, John. Now, for those that are listening, could you tell us like an example, like how someone would come see you in the clinic? Better pain catastrophizing, fear of avoidance, all those things, loss of confidence. How would you mobilize that person from in the room to either Pilates or strength? How would you use that as an example?
Yeah, so it's a good question, because depending on what that person thinks or what's going on, a lot of people come in with preconceived ideas of what their pain means. Essentially, like, everyone has a story that they tell themselves about their pain, and so when I'm listening to them, I'm sort of gauging, well, what does this mean to them? How serious do they think it is? What are their fears, their concerns? And I think it's really important to lay that all out, because that essentially guides me in terms of like how quick I need to progress them. Some people, they're pretty confident that they're going to bounce back really quickly. Other people are more reserved. This also depends on the person's personality as well. Some people are just naturally more introverted, a bit more protective of their own body. Other people who've had more, bumps and falls and things, they don't mind. They just kind of get up and get over it really easily. So a lot of that sort of past history really tells me a lot about how someone's going to bounce back. And so essentially, when I look at someone move, I'm trying to gauge a lot of things, really, like how fast are they moving. So there's a lot of like movement quality sort of aspects that I look at. How smooth is their motion? How fast is it? How controlled is it? How are they breathing? All these things are essentially like unspoken body language cues that tell me what the person's thinking, feeling, beneath the surface. And a lot of these things are non-verbal sort of things. So I've had to coach my eye to picking up on these things. And so once that person's feeling comfortable and confident in their body, we can start integrating load gradually over time. Pilates is really unique in that it's more of a constraints-based approach, and because you've got the equipment, the reformer, it sort of naturally constrains the exercise in a way where it makes it
load.
Yeah, you can control the load, you can control the tempo. It really drives a lot of neuromuscular training and being able to connect someone's nervous system and their body in a way that's more refined, rather than just getting in the weights room and just lifting heavy weights. And for a lot of people in that early rehab stage, they actually do benefit from that Pilates approach because it's more low impacts, low intensity, and then over time we can start to ramp up their intensity and their exposure to load. But as I say, frequency trumps intensity every day of the week. So I'd rather someone load their body at a lighter intensity more frequently, build up their exposure to a point where they can progress to something higher load in the gym.
And while we're on that, do you have like do you have like a benchmark or a monitoring strategy in terms of how long people should be Pilates versus gym? Because I know you can do the two. Do you have like a preference, or do you base it on the confidence on the individual?
So it depends on a few things. So some people benefit from doing both at the same time. Other people, it depends on their goals. If their goals purely strength based, then they may need Pilates for a period of time to improve their mobility, to improve their stability, their control, and then once they've progressed from that phase, they can progress to more of a strength based approach. But some people lack mobility, or they're just a very stiff person, have been for many years. So while they might be relatively out of pain and they can move well and they've refined their movement patterns to a degree, and they're safe to load in the gym, they might still need that touch point with Pilates to help maintain their mobility so they don't fall back into old patterns. So it really is person dependent, and it's something that I probably decide depending on that particular person what would work well for them.
Yeah. Well, I've got you there, because you obviously see a lot of complex cases, and you obviously got the traditional model where people like to measure things by goniometers, force plates. How do you find that in line with patients who are like frustrated, in pain? Do you think, does it work?
Like the more
Like
numbers and objective sort of measures.
The reason why I say that is because we've talked a lot about the EQ, emotional side. You're obviously very in tuned in terms of how people feel. Do you bring in the numbers at all? Like, I'm just curious because you got your classic physio who are very measure this A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah. You've obviously got a very holistic where you take the whole person first.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, as I say, you can't manage what you don't measure. So you definitely measure, but it's determining what matters.
Nice quote.
Yeah. It's got more coming. So, but we manage, we determine what matters to the person, right? And then we measure what matters, and then we make sure we reassess that sort of, we call an asterisk sign or reassessment sign. So essentially it's that sort of marker of success for that person. Every person's going to be different, but we do measure there's different types of measures in terms of objective measures like range of motion, strength, but function is often one of those things that's under measured. Well, people just don't know how to measure it because it's more of a qualitative assessment or a qualitative approach. So not everything is just black and white in healthcare. There is a nuance to it, and so that's where I think the physio industry often misses that. Not everything is a formula where it's ones and zeros. You've got to be able to see the nuance in things, and your measurements and your numbers support that whole process. It's not about strengthening everything you see as weak, or stretching everything you see tight. It's more about asking the why and figuring out the context behind why that's happening.
Yeah, that's deep. And I can 100% resonate. And having the opportunity of seeing many patients who last thing they want to hear is me measuring things. But at the end of the day, from a research per se, we've got to have clarity in terms of a way to measure why the patient is there and what's the strategy out of there. Yeah. So there's obviously ways of doing it. You get better with more experience. I definitely use more pain function because people come for a result immediately. And when we're in the industry where the consumer has got to pay for time. So that's what we're stuck with. And so we working in private health, as you would understand, we have the pressure of delivering. And so, you mastering the art of making sure that you add in the numbers versus the EQ of the patient is a fine line. But I definitely can hand on heart, I would more gravitate to understanding the patient first and use baselines in terms of things they can do well, things they can't do, and I'll use that as a bit of a way to move forward, get their confidence. But you know how I operate. When I see a patient, sometimes I'll have 5-6 people in that treatment plan. And for me, not only helps with my wait list, but it's just ensuring that there's bias taken out of my thought process. But also, I know that these people in my team that are very better than me at measuring numbers. So at the end of the day, it just allows me to kind of frame up what I'm really good at, is getting that patient attention, but also making them feel that they've been heard, and to know that it takes a team to build them. But definitely having that that space with you, we've shared a lot. We've definitely, we've seen some amazing results. So
the one thing I wanted to say on that point, with particularly with more of those complex or chronic pain patients, a lot of them, their pain doesn't behave the same way as like an acute injury, and so pain alone is often not the best measure for those people of success. So that's where I find that introducing other functional measures as like assistive assessment or measurement tools is important, and also just educating like those people on not just using pain as their only benchmark, because pain changes so much, particularly with chronic pain. So and often those people are very focused on their pain, and so it's very hard for them to see beyond that. So often my role in the whole process is actually getting someone to look beyond their pain and look at how they're moving and how competent are they at moving, and that's where they typically benefit from more of the I guess the psychosocial approach, or sort of being able to de-threaten their fear of movement and those kinds of things. And often when you do take that approach, their pain does lessen because they're not as guarded and apprehensive. So people that are typically more focused on their pain will be more guarded, and typically people who, can acknowledge they have pain, but they can find other ways of working around it and moving around it, show more adaptable traits, and typically they won't be as guarded and they'll have less pain as a result.
So you obviously put a lot of emphasis on extracting the information out of the patient. Like, where did that all come from? Do you feel that that's a lot of your journey in terms of your self-development, to like listen to people, ask the right questions, and then execute the next phase in terms of all the physio modalities?
Yeah, I think context is king in this situation, and it allows you to find the gaps. So when you can listen intently, then you can find where the gaps are and you can execute with precision. And so it takes the guesswork out of it. And so I'm essentially trying to find where's the person's biggest gaps. Another analogy I use often is like, imagine you have 10 trees and they all have different, the soil in each of them has different level of hydration, right? I want to prevent the driest trees from dying first. So I'm trying to find where's the driest tree, right? And I only have so much water in a watering can. I've got to water those trees, right? So that's kind of the approach I take, is like, where is the need? And that's always gonna change, right? So I have to prioritize different things along that journey, and so that's where the reassessment is really important, because as you start to create changes, the priority is going to start to shift. So it's not just a set and forget sort of thing.
Having your time at the clinic now, obviously we've got such a diverse team. We've got some pretty heavy hitters.
Yeah.
How have you found, your model in terms of how you think and having people that can support you? How have you found working in a team?
Yeah, it's great because I can leverage off other people's knowledge and skills. It's really hard to do that as a single person, or in a way where you're just sort of working just one-on-one with your own patients, but not actually able to refer them to other people. And so there's definitely health like models that work like that, where each practitioner has their own caseload and there's no crossover at all. But again, you're not going to get the same depth or results that you would if you're able to leverage skills and knowledge of other people. And I find that those patients that can sort of get that whole team and multidisciplinary approach, they typically get better outcomes because they pick up things from a lot of different people, and then they start to become more aware and more knowledgeable of their own behaviors, their health, and over time that compounds. And I think that really makes a difference to someone's health. And then that person can then go and help someone else that they know, or point them in the right direction. And that sort of ties into more of the community stuff. But it does have a flow-on effect, which is really cool.
What have you learned about yourself in that model? Like, what are things that you've like gone, wow, these are things that I've taken away?
Yeah, it's I've probably learned that I have particular strengths, and that it's not trying to be like a jack of all trades. It's sort of recognizing where your unique talents are and unique strengths, and where in a team environment can you be best positioned to add value to other people's on their journey. So for me, like, I learned that, and through your help as well, this is because coming into this team, I was trying to sort of be everywhere at once. I was trying to be that sort of jack of all trades, whereas I learned that with my personality and just my unique skill set and my approach to healthcare, that my strengths are best utilized and executed in that early stage rehab. And that's essentially where people need the most reassurance, they need the most patience, and support and education. And that's where I can utilize all of my skills and kind of package it in a way.
I could definitely agree with you on that, because as we said earlier, we've shared many people, and just the attention to detail you have, it's taken a lot of pressure off me. But to see the confidence and the empowering that you apply to the patients is, it's humbling. And so I definitely, for me personally, I always I get humbled in terms of when I see your approach, because it makes me want to be better.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about our team.
Yeah.
Working with people like yourself, because you don't always have a good day, but you've got tomorrow.
Yeah.
You could be better the next day. So that's the cool thing about always having a standard to uphold, and I'm always grateful for you to always deliver like that, because it's not easy and it's tiring.
Yeah. No, thanks, Peps. I appreciate that. And the other thing I was going to say as well is that the benefit of having like a team as well is that, like you said, not every, it's a hard job, but when you work in a team, like, other people have your back, and you've got the support of your teammates, like you would in a sporting environment, So if you're not at your best one day, it's nice to have other people there that have got your back and that can support you, and then you show up the next day and try again.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Now, speaking on that, like, you're now, a senior physio. You've been in the game for a while now. Looking back to now, is physio made up to what it to be?
Yeah, I mean, what was it made to be in the first place? I think, as in, do you mean like before I got into the profession, what I thought it was going to be? Is it what I thought it was going to be?
Like, has it evolved to, like, is physio now completely different to what you thought it was going to be? Like, even going through starting physio, even
like even in my studies, I think when I was studying, I only skimmed the surface. I probably learned a lot more when I started working, and I think the industry shifted a lot since I started, like in about 10 years ago. I've always sort of tended to stay on the cutting edge and the upfront sort of knowledge of what we're seeing in our industry and finding sort of new ways of solving complex problems. There are still a lot of physios that use ultrasound and like old methods of practicing, but I usually try and continue learning and adding value in new ways. So I think it's actually exceeded my expectations, to be honest.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of physio, you're a proud one. What do you think of the current state of physio in healthcare now? I know you're super passionate. Like, is it going in the direction that you're really proud to be part of, or have you become more like, you've just had to jump into other fields to kind of build your skill set? Like where is physio going at the moment?
I think physio, the direction of thanks, Peps. The direction that it's going, it does have its shortcomings, and I do see that just from my discussions with other like patients. There are shortcomings in terms of what certain physios can provide as far as healthcare. The typical story that I'll hear is that a physio will see a patient, they might kind of listen to what they have to say and then give them a bunch of exercises and then come back at some point when they've managed to get some results, and they may or may not succeed. Whereas I think that the real game changer for our industry is pulling, I guess I pull a lot from osteo, I pull a lot from other like life coaching, I pull a lot from self-development, and I try and bring it into the whole health space in a way that's sort of unique. So in that sense, I don't think physio has all the answers. I think we can bring in a lot from hospitality, for example, from community programs. We can draw on so many different areas, and I think that's where physiotherapy does fall short in some ways. I think it could be better, but I think that's where we're paving the path for something new, and like leading by example for other people in our industry, and really setting a high bar for what should be considered healthcare.
Yes, putting the care
back in healthcare. Yeah.
This guy's using my lines.
Used all his lines.
I agree with you, and I wasn't trying to put a spotlight on physio per se, but that's healthcare in general. Our goal, you use the line, the rising tide lifts all the boats, right? So our role is to be leaders. Our role as leaders is to make sure that we create a pathway, not only for practitioners, but for our people. So, reactive, healthcare at the moment is quite reactive care. So we're trying to be proactive, but it starts from the top. So we're trying to be good leaders in a way where we lead by example. So I hear you. We can take a lot from every industry. So I feel like a lot of my qualities came from hospitality. How I serve people, I treat the clinic like I'm in hospo. Yeah, making people feel like they are welcome. It's taking them out of their environment where they feel it's like the cliche clinic. Bless Rachel for designing the clinic and putting a lot of effort in aesthetics. People feel gravitated to it. They see the pictures and videos on Instagram, and they come. They're like, I needed to check out the space before they even see us, which is amazing. And it just goes to show just how space is really important. Yeah, and that sets the tone. So even just a simple greeting. Yeah. So I feel like I agree where the first part is we're missing connection. It's people feel lonely out there. It's we don't live in that environment of villages or culture. It's a very individualistic way of thinking, and that's just the society we live in. Yeah. But you and I can definitely agree with all the patients we see is that people are generally lonely. Like people are missing that the piece to feel together, feel heard. Be amongst other leaders. Like leaders are supposed to pass on the knowledge. So my next point back, obviously we'll talk about leadership, right? You play a lot. You're big on habits and behaviors. Yes. What's the missing piece for most people's recovery?
Missing piece in people's recovery, as it relates to habits and behaviors.
Like what are the trends that you see? Like, is it because it's the expectations are not there? Their idea of exercise isn't quite the same expectation. Like,
I think behavior change is very underrated. I think people probably think themselves or talk themselves out of doing a lot of things because it's too hard. Behavior change, I think we have more of a behavior change issue than an information issue. Otherwise, we'd be seeing a lot more people who are able to succeed on their own. But the real, I think, challenge that people have is being able to shift their behaviors in a meaningful way. In terms of like habits. I really love James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. I think it's a great book because it.
I agree.
Yeah, that's like, if you haven't read that book, go read that book. It'll change your life. But essentially, a lot of what I do essentially boils down to two things. It's load management and behavior change. Like, if I had to boil down my job into two things as a physio, if I did those two things, I would probably be able to help most people. It's just, obviously, I incorporate a lot of other things into that. But I think if more people could learn how to, improve their habits, their lifestyle in a meaningful way, we would see health shift as well in a meaningful way.
Now, for the listeners out there, someone that's struggling with pain or in performance right now, what's one shift they can do today or make today?
So it depends if you're in pain or you're seeking performance. I think when it comes to pain, I think it's never too late to ask for help. I think it takes a lot of grace to be able to, set foot and ask for help for someone. So often when someone comes into me, that's a big deal, that they decide to book an appointment or call up and actually ask for help. And usually someone's at a low point at that point. So I've got to have a lot of respect and consideration for that. And so, my advice to that person would be, it's never too late to start. Probably the best time was yesterday, but today is also fine.
Yeah.
So.
And just curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity and wanting to learn more about your body. And I think that pain is an invitation to change something about what you're doing. It's a message or a signal from your body, and you should tune into it. Don't just try and block it out. As for performance, performance can mean something different to every person. For someone, it might be, being able to run a certain distance. For another person, it might just being able to pick up their kids and do that well. So it means something different to everyone. But I would say if performance is your goal, then you actually need to kind of figure out where your standard is, or like where your current capacity is, and what are the demands required of your goal, and then figure out what the gap is and figure out what you need to do to get there. And we can do both of those things, which is great.
That's deep, because I have one for both in pain and performance. Now, for the listeners out there, make sure when you see someone, they can give you a diagnosis, a time frame, management plan, who's involved and what their role is. I call that the quick five. Now, not long ago when I was trying to be an athlete, I've seen that many people that I didn't even know what to ask. So, just make sure that you get those 5 things checked off. And if they can't give you those things, then you need to keep asking other practitioners. So that's really important. And I feel like that's something that I give out to a lot of people, because you need to know those things. It gives you a bit of direction. You know why you're there, but it makes you more curious as well.
Yeah, I back that. I think people are right to scrutinize the people, like the practitioners that they're looking after them. There's a mixed bag of people who are more experienced, less experienced, and I think a big step in healthcare is patients asking questions, and they're right to do that so that they can get answers and they can get clarity.
Amen to that. Well, we're obviously coming to conclude our show, but we're going to do a quick fire of questions about you.
Quick five.
Yeah, well, quick fire.
Quick fire. Sounds good.
Now, they're like one-word answers, okay? So just to come back to life again, we've gone into the
We
deep.
went deep. yeah. Well, it's top of mind. Yeah.
Okay, so this is to represent John, okay? So manual therapy or movement first?
Movement.
Strength or mobility?
Strength.
Discipline or motivation?
Discipline.
Books or podcasts?
Books.
Oh, we're going to say podcasts.
Yeah. As we're on a podcast.
A gym session or Pilates session?
Gym session.
And one word to describe your approach to healthcare?
Grounded.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, John, I'd like to say a massive thank you for your time. It's I learned a lot about you, and thank you for your contribution to healthcare. It's great to serve you know, our community together. It's a real blessing, and I feel like the community have got someone amazing. You know, Melbourne is blessed to have someone like you. So, thank you for this time, and I'm looking forward to airing this one.
Thanks, Peps.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Cheers, bro.
And thank you to my man at the back, Padula. Love you heaps. God bless
Thanks,
you.
bro.